They tell you it's a gift. They call it destiny. They give you a dramatic speech about how you're special, how you're one of a kind. Immediately write 888 in the comments and subscribe to the channel, because the moment you hear these words, the moment they extend that old, worn invitation across the table to you, you must remember one thing. It's a trap. It is the most predictable, overused trick in history. The secret society, the ancient order, the people who actually run things in the shadows, they don't recruit their leaders. They control them. And this whole chosen one thing, it's their favorite leash. For years, I believed it. For years, I did exactly what they told me to. I walked into their chambers. I drank their weird herbal tea. I learned their secrets, and I waited patiently to become the person I was supposed to be. But what they didn't realize is that I wasn't just learning their lessons. I was learning them. I was looking for the weak spot, the loophole, the moment where I could flip the whole board over and run the game myself. This isn't the story about how I joined the secret society. It's the story about how I took it over. Look, from the outside, my life was just normal. Messy apartment, 9-to-5 job that paid the bills but didn't inspire the usual arguments with my landlord. The only thing that made me different was something I couldn't really explain. It wasn't a superpower. It was more like an extra layer of awareness. Imagine walking into a room where everyone is talking about a movie, and you're the only one who actually read the original book. You know every subtle detail, every missed plot point, every character motivation they got wrong. That's what it was like living in the world for me. Everyone else was watching the movie, but I was living in the world of the original script. I'd know what the person on the other end of the phone was going to say a second before they said it. I'd walk down the street and have this cold, certain feeling that I shouldn't take the next turn. And then later hear on the news there was a massive accident right there. It was small stuff, weird stuff, but it added up. And the worst part? The isolation. How you tell your friends, yeah, I think I'm seeing the future in tiny, useless flashes. You don't. You bottle it up. You feel like a glitch in the system. And for years, that's exactly how I lived. A walking, breathing glitch. I figured I was just slightly insane, maybe overworked, definitely underslept. That was the easy answer. Then came the day that changed everything. The day the world outside, my head, proved the world inside, my head was right. It wasn't a dramatic movie scene. It was a Tuesday. I was at the library. Yes, I'm that kind of person, trying to research some obscure history topic for my own curiosity. I pulled a book off the shelf, a heavy one about ancient symbols. When I opened it, there was a bookmark, not a paper one. It was a piece of metal, thin and cold, engraved with a symbol I'd seen 1,000 times in my dreams since I was a kid. A circle split by 3 winding lines. I picked it up, and my hand started shaking. The air around me felt thick, like water. And then I heard it, not with my ears, but inside my mind, clear as a bell. A voice. It sounded old, tired, and deeply, patiently powerful. The waiting is over. The time is now, little one. I slammed the book shut and looked around the aisle. Nobody. Just an old man browsing cookbooks and a teenager texting furiously by the self-checkout. My heart was hammering so hard it felt like it was trying to punch its way out of my chest. I knew, with that chilling certainty I'd learned to dread, that this wasn't an accident. They found me. I threw the book back, shoved the metal piece in my pocket, and got out of there fast. I spent the next 3 days looking over my shoulder, jumping at every shadow. I changed my route to work. I stopped answering my phone if I didn't recognize the number. I thought I could run it off, outpace it, pretend it never happened. That was my first mistake. The truth is, once the ancient order, once the Council of the Three Suns, yes, that's their ridiculous, yet surprisingly accurate name, decides they want you, running is just delaying the inevitable. It was Friday night. I was watching a documentary about deep-sea creatures, trying to pretend my life was normal, when my doorbell rang. It was after midnight. Who rings a doorbell after midnight? Only a pizza delivery guy who got lost, or them. I didn't open the door. I tiptoed to the peephole. Standing there was a woman. She was mid-40s, impeccably dressed in an expensive-looking dark suit, and she wasn't looking at the door. She was looking right at the peephole. Right at me. She didn't smile. She didn't even move. She just reached up and slid something underneath my door. It was a thick, creamy envelope, sealed with red wax that bore the exact same 3-line circle symbol. Then, she simply turned around and walked away, disappearing into the darkness of the street, as if she melted into the shadows. No car, no sound, just gone. I waited 5 minutes, shaking, before I finally snatched the envelope off the floor. The paper felt heavy, like it was made of linen and secrets. Inside was a single card. No address, no phone number. Just a sentence, typed out in a font that looked like it hadn't been changed since the 1700s. We have waited for you. Your ascent begins now. Tomorrow midnight. The old clock tower. That was it. The invitation. The moment I became the problem. For the rest of that night, and all the next day, I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I didn't even turn on the TV. I sat there and stared at that card, debating the single most important choice of my life. Choice A. Call the police, throw the car in the fire, and pretend this whole thing was a prank. Go back to my normal, miserable life and try to forget the cold, certain feeling that I was meant for something else. Choice B. Show up, walk into the fire, find out what this destiny actually was, and maybe, just maybe, figure out what they wanted with the glitch. The core problem wasn't safety. It was identity. If I went, I was admitting I was special. I was buying into the chosen one myth. If I didn't, I'd spend the rest of my life wondering if I had missed the only exit from the ordinary. I decided on B, not because I was brave, but because I was curious. And because I figured if they knew enough to find me at my apartment and drop a creepy invitation, they probably knew enough to find me anywhere else, too. Going on their terms, to their turf, gave me the home field advantage of knowing where the first play was going to happen. I spent the day researching the clock tower. It was an abandoned landmark downtown, supposedly built by some eccentric millionaire 100 years ago. Everyone thought it was just a piece of cool, old architecture. No one knew that the heavy oak door on the side had a simple, almost invisible carving of a 3-line circle symbol. Midnight came, and I was standing there. The tower was huge, dark, and silent. There was no one around. The air was colder than it should have been. I touched the symbol on the door, and the metal felt hot. It clicked inward, the heavy oak swinging open without a sound, revealing not a dusty staircase, but perfect, polished flight of stone steps descending into a warm, yellowish light. I walked in. The Council of the Three Suns was exactly what you would expect. A huge, circular room carved directly into the bedrock beneath the city. No windows. High ceiling. The light came from a single, enormous crystal hanging in the center that pulsed with soft energy. And sitting in a circle of 10 carved stone chairs were the counselors. Old, serious, dressed in flowing robes that looked like they cost a small fortune. I stood there, looking completely out of place in my faded jeans and a hoodie, feeling the eyes of 1,000 years of history on me. One of them, the one in the center, a woman with a face carved by time and intelligence, spoke. Her voice wasn't the one I heard in the library. This one was calm, commanding. "Welcome, Acolyte," she said. They didn't call me by name. I was just Acolyte. We are the Council. We govern the subtle current of the world. We ensure balance. And you, little one, are the key to the next age. They spent the next 10 minutes giving me the chosen one speech. It was beautiful, honestly. A masterpiece of manipulation. They talked about my unique awareness, my foresight, my deep connection to the stream of causality. They told me I was a descendant of the original founder. They said they had watched me since I was a child, subtly protecting me, guiding me toward this moment. They said the world was currently on a dangerous path, headed for a global tipping point, an instability that would shake humanity apart, and that only I, with my specific gifts, could set it right. You are our torchbearer, the woman continued, leaning forward. You will undergo the training, learn the ancient ways, and ultimately, you will take your place beside us and lead the world into the future. It is your destiny. The choice is made. I let her finish. I let them all sit there, satisfied with their dramatic delivery. I felt the familiar coldness of certainty wash over me, but this time it wasn't a warning. It was a plan. I took a deep breath. This was the moment I stopped being the glitch and started being the player. "That's a great story," I said. My voice echoed in the stone chamber, sounding ridiculously casual. The counselors shifted. They weren't used to casual. "I have a few questions, though," I continued, walking slowly toward the center crystal just to make them nervous. "First, if you're so powerful, why do you need a teenager in a hoodie to save the world? Haven't you had a few centuries to figure out the world's problems?" Silence. Cold, heavy silence. "Second," I went on, pointing toward the counselors themselves, "if I am the key to the next age, the torchbearer, then why is the title you gave me on the card? Acolyte? That's not a leader. That's a student. That's an apprentice. That's someone you control." I paused right next to the crystal. The light was buzzing right through me. "And third, and this is the important one, you've been watching me my whole life, right? You know my deepest desires, my potential. But you told me my destiny is to join you and lead the world. You got the word lead completely wrong." I looked directly at the councilwoman. "You don't want a leader. You want a puppet. You want someone young and strong, who you can tell what to do until they are old and tired like you are, and then you replace them with the next one. You want me to manage your ancient, boring, slow-moving secret society. You want me to save your power structure, not the world." The room was buzzing now, but not with the crystal's energy. It was buzzing with anger. The counselors' faces were stony. The woman spoke, her calm voice now edged with ice. "You presume much. Acolyte, this is not a discussion. It is an acceptance. We are offering you the keys to the kingdom." "Exactly," I shot back. "And here's my counteroffer. I'm not here to be your chosen one. I'm here to run it." This was the biggest lie they told. The chosen one is special, but they are still a tool. The person in power is the person who controls the tools. Their biggest mistake was showing me the tool shed. What followed was my true introduction to society. They didn't appreciate the negotiation. They didn't appreciate the challenge. The councilwoman, her face now a mask of fury, raised her hand. "You have rejected destiny. You have rejected the council. You are now a threat." Two massive men in black silently materialized from the shadows near the entrance, walking toward me. Not to kill me, I realized, but to subdue me, to put me on the curriculum, to break me down and rebuild me as the loyal acolyte they needed. This led directly to the central challenge, the test of ascension. The fight wasn't physical. I was a geek who researched obscure history. They were ancient warriors. A physical fight would last about 4 seconds. No, the fight was mental. As the men closed in, I didn't run. I closed my eyes and focused on the energy of the room, on the light of the crystal. My unique gift, my glitch, wasn't really about seeing the future. It was about seeing connection. I could see how everything was linked, like seeing the code of the world instead of the graphics. I saw the men moving, and I saw the cause and effect of their movements. If the man on the left steps with his right foot, his center of gravity shifts precisely $x degrees, and the air disturbance will cause a faint shift in the crystal's light at $t time. I wasn't fighting their movements. I was fighting the flow that dictated their movements. I sidestepped the first man's clumsy lunge. I didn't push him or punch him. I just moved my shoulders slightly into the path of the second man's charge. It was an almost invisible adjustment, but it created an imbalance in their combined attack that made them trip over each other like two drunks. It was elegant, efficient, and completely baffling to them. The counselors stared. They had trained for centuries to harness this flow, to manipulate the subtle current. But they did it by rote, by ancient rules. They had never met anyone who could just read the code. The councilwoman, realizing that brute force wasn't working, used her own power. She sent a wave of psychic pressure at me, a thick, crushing feeling of doubt and insignificance. The classic mind break move. You are small. You are nothing. You are a moment of error in a long history of perfection. Submit. The pressure was immense, like standing in the deepest part of the ocean. My knees buckled, but I focused on the feeling. I didn't fight the doubt. I examined it. I noticed that the energy wasn't coming from her. It was being channeled through her, filtered through the enormous crystal, which was acting as a massive psychic amplifier. And that was it. That was the loophole. The council wasn't powerful because they were individually gifted. They were powerful because they were all plugged into the same source, that giant, glowing crystal. It was plugged into the city's power grid, which was plugged into the world's power grid, which was all tied to the subtle current. The crystal didn't just emit energy. It stored it and it processed it. It was a society's hard drive, their server, their brain. I pushed back against the psychic pressure, but not at her. I pushed my awareness into the crystal. I saw the energy lines, the connections, the code. And in that code, I saw the one thing a 1,000-year-old society would never put a password on, the off switch. It wasn't a lever. It was a precise, harmonic frequency, a specific thought wave that, when channeled into the crystal, would cause it to reset its main flow. They had built it as a failsafe, a way to prevent an internal coup or a catastrophic energy overload. I channeled the frequency. It was a thought, a feeling, a deep, resonating hum of stop. The crystal, the heart of society, didn't explode. It didn't crack. It just blinked. For a single, absolute second, the light went out. The thick, warm air became just cold air. The psychic pressure vanished. The two goons, mid-step, froze, then stumbled clumsily as their mental link to the council was cut. The councilwoman gasped, and the other counselors looked around in panic. They were suddenly just 10 old people in fancy robes sitting on stone chairs in a basement. The power was gone. Their connection to the great flow gone. I straightened up, my legs still shaking, but my mind was laser-focused. I didn't reject the council, I said, walking to the central councilwoman's empty seat, the one I knew was a throne, and sitting down. I just rejected the management structure. The councilwoman glared at me, rage and confusion battling in her eyes. What did you do? I hit the reset button. I replied, shrugging. Your server needed a hard reboot. You guys have been running the same operating system for too long. It was getting slow, full of bugs, and resistant to necessary updates. She stood up, her robe catching the light again. The crystal was slowly, weakly pulsing back to life. You will pay for this insolence. You have no idea what you've started. Oh, I know exactly what I started, I said, getting comfortable in the stone chair. It was surprisingly uncomfortable. I started a merger and acquisition, and I'm the new CEO. I leaned forward. You told me I was the key to the next age. You were right. You just misunderstood what the key was for. It wasn't to open the door and walk in. It was to lock the old management out. I knew I had to act fast. Their power was returning. Slowly, they would try to kill me. Or, worse, they would try to subdue me again. I had maybe 5 minutes of control. Here's the deal, I announced, looking around the stun circle. The Council of the Three Suns is disbanded, effective immediately. You are all officially the Executive Board of Global Causal Stability. Much cooler name, right? I held up the little metal bookmark I'd kept in my pocket. This society is old. It's rich. It has resources, information, and influence I can only dream of. The problem is, you've been using all that power to maintain the status quo and feed your own egos. You're terrified of change. I'm not, I continued. I have a completely different agenda. The world needs to be saved, yes, but not by slowing it down. It needs to be saved by speeding up its evolution in the right direction. I pointed at the two stunned goons by the door. You two are now my head of security. You answer to me. Your previous loyalty contract is void. My foresight is better than hers. If you try to betray me, I will see it, and you will be guarding a latrine in the darkest corner of Siberia by breakfast. They looked at each other, then back at me, then at the councilwoman. They were tools. They would serve the one who controlled the mechanism. I controlled the mechanism. They took a step toward me. The councilwoman realized she had truly lost control. She was about to try a desperate attack. I knew it. I saw the movement, the flicker of psychic intention, but I didn't wait for her to attack. I know what you're thinking, I said, before she could utter a word. But you don't realize how much of your power is built into this building. You're all running on a very old, very predictable script. With that, I use my unique gift not to fight, but to influence the crystal's weak, reawakening flow. It was like subtly shifting a current of water, just enough to nudge a boat a few inches off course. I focused the crystal's energy not on me, but on the councilwoman's chair, which was carved from a single piece of heavy stone. I channeled just enough energy into the tiny, ancient fault line that ran across the base of the chair. There was a loud crack. The councilwoman's chair didn't break entirely, but the stone split sharply. She was thrown slightly off balance, her concentration completely shattered. It wasn't an attack. It was a distraction, a proof of concept. You see, I said, standing up from my newly claimed seat, I don't need to fight you. I can just subtly change the environment around you. I can change the rules you've relied on for centuries. I walked toward her, and the two security guys followed a step behind me. She was defeated, not by strength, but by pure, humiliating management efficiency. I was the chosen one, I said, looking down at her. But my destiny was never to join your council. It was to replace it. Your resignation is accepted. Please gather your personal effects and report to my new head of logistics for your reassignment to the European branch. Cleaning duty. It was a final, devastating move. A complete and utter hostile takeover. I had walked into my destiny, realized it was just a cage, and instead of walking out, I changed the locks and put a new sign on the door. The sun was rising when I walked out of the old clock tower. It wasn't just a new day, it was a new era. The counselors, now stripped of their ceremonial robes and wearing cheap, slightly ill-fitting suits, were being escorted into a black van by my two new security guys. They looked utterly defeated. They were still powerful, yes, but their ancient, rigid system had been taken over by someone who understood that sometimes the best way to win an ancient battle is with a simple, modern, hostile takeover. I was no longer the glitch. I was the system administrator. I wasn't saving the world by waving a magic wand or fighting a supervillain. I was saving it by using the infrastructure of the people who thought they were in charge, but were too slow and too arrogant to realize the game had changed. I had the power of ancient secrets backed by a hypermodern understanding of efficiency and leverage. The real secret of the Chosen One, it's not your destiny. It's your potential. And the secret society's biggest mistake? Assuming they were the only ones who knew how to use it. They handed me the key to their entire organization and told me to be a good little student. I looked at the key and realized it was the key to the executive washroom, and I took it. Now, the real work begins. Because it turns out running a secret society is a lot harder than it looks on TV. It's a lot of paperwork, surprisingly. But I'm in charge now, and the world is about to get a whole lot more interesting. If you want to hear what I did with the head counselor's secret vault, you need to subscribe.